Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous Tuesday. And sorry we were out yesterday. We did have jury duty, which we just basically sit around all day until I got into the courtroom, and it was a DUI case. And I think what allowed me not to be picked was because I had a prior run in with a police officer that I had to tell them about when I got arrested in Pell City, Alabama, many, many years ago. Because I was trying to explain to the officer, listen, officer, I don't think you got the right car. He did not like that at all. And next thing you know, he's like, step out of the car. And I'll never forget him. He was a state trooper in Alabama. And he had been on the force less than 6 months. When they took me to the booking area, the woman said, you've been on the force how long? You brought him in for what? I'll never forget her saying that. And I was like, oh man, I just caught him on a bad day. Because I was respectful and everything, but I think he got the wrong car. I really do. But his name was Officer Hale. And he made my life a living hell that day, that's for sure. Anyway, welcome in, everybody. Good to have you. Real traders never trade alone. They trade with their fellow nerds. We got Hal in the house today. We got Skip with us. We got Jim B. We got Mo. We got Stacy. And we've got Chris. Welcome in. And we just had a big green candles here. A couple big green candles. And let's see if we can figure out why that happened. And we've got some news. So the news is U.S. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent comments at J.P. Morgan event in Washington, and he said that he sees de-escalation with China, and the situation is unsustainable. Wow, how about that? So the dollar rose on that information, and look at the S&P 500, and we see it in real time. Isn't that amazing? So very cool that we know that we can follow the news and see what happens with the market. And look at the markets. The S&P up 2.66%, the NQ up 2.87%. So basically, it's kind of undoing what it did yesterday with the big Dow boom. And look at this. The algos go crazy on news. Look at this. Look at the volume on that, on those two bars. And now they're like, did he really say that? Does it really mean something? And then it's just kind of stalling. Isn't that weird? The VIX is at 30. How about these elevated VIX? And look at the AD, y'all, 489. And that is the high of the day. We are at the high of the day on AD, and the market soars today. So that's very interesting. All right, let's look at the big green monster and on volume profile on the S&P 500 and see if we can make sense of it. What the market did yesterday. Wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing how these levels work so well? It went to the 150% line and bounced right up. And then today we've got a gap up. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a trend day. And the trend is up. Basically, you buy at the bottom and you just ride it on up for the day. Of course, I've not scalped today. And then let's go to the NQ, because what I've been doing on NQ, since I've been scalping on NQ, is I like doing this daily little thing here. So let's take this off, even though that looked nice too. Look at it. Let's take this off. And let's draw a scalping range for the day. So let's go to clean chart. And let's get us the NQ and see if we can find any levels here on NQ. And let's do 30 minutes, 10 days. And let's go back. And let's take yesterday. Make sure I got this up here. There we go. And let's do a Fibonacci extension or retracement from the low to the high. All right, let's go over here and ground it. Anchor it, I guess is what I should say. Anchor this. Edit properties. You don't have to do that, but I like getting it exact. So the high was 18,165. 18,165. These are helpful levels for me when I'm scalping. 18,165, and the low is 17,700. 17,700. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. And the 50% line to that. So let's do this little fella here. So we'll go from 50% to the middle of this. And then we'll draw that down to the 100% line. Then we take the 100 and we go down to the 200. So let's do this. Let's activate this. And we'll take the 100 down to the 200. We're gonna have to draw another chart, aren't we? And then let's take, well, I can't see. Lay that right on that pink line. Oh, we started right there. There we go. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. Let's remove drawing. So now we've got our little drawing here, but you notice that we need to duplicate this because we're running out of room here. So let's do this. Let's go duplicate. And then we'll move one of them up. There. Now, let's see what we've got. Let's go back to volume profile. And let's go to NQ. And let's see what we got here. Oh, it's hard to tell, isn't it? But what we do then, we'll go back to our 0 DTE trade in our ES 0 DTE. There we go. So we've got a little bit of levels here. I'm not sure if they help us or not here on this, but it's interesting to draw them nonetheless. I like doing that. All right, let's go to our linear regression. Where is linear regression? I've got them right here. All right, linear regression. So we're having a little bit of inflection on either side of this little trend line that we drew here. And yesterday was a big down day. And it looks like we've overtaken this. This is, it's not engulfing because it doesn't cover this, but it's certainly a big green candle here. But, you know, the thing is, you can't tell. I mean, technical analysis really doesn't do any good when you've got President Trump in the office, you know, tweeting and doing his social media posts and everything that, or he could say something in a heartbeat that would change anything. So it really doesn't give us anything, but it is interesting to see it going back and forth on this little trend line that we've got here. What we would think is we're in a downtrend here, but what we think would happen is probably we would go up. Let's go back to our volume profile again. Let's go back to volume profile. Yeah. Now, I said that one looks like we should go up, but here we look like we would go down if we spend some time here, right? If we spend some time here at the point of control, it looks like this would want to go down into this area, into the fair value zone, unless this was just overdone here. But I wish there was something else. I just took a nap a while ago and I was dreaming, that my youngest daughter, who's 8, bought calls for today. She bought 0 DTE calls and in the E-mini S&P 500. And I was like, how did you know to do that? How did you do that? And I had not even looked at what the market had done, and she would have been right. So there ought to be a way that we could use this more effectively to do some of those kind of speculative trades, you know, directional based on what we've got here. But we'll see if we can do that. But nonetheless, hopefully things will de-escalate with China. Hopefully the market will recover from these little Well, we've been down further than this, but hopefully the market will recover and get back to some normalcy. Until then, I am on the sidelines and I will see y'all tomorrow.